Hello, I'm Sensei Alex Kakuyo, regular contributor for Buddhistdoor Global, and I'd like to welcome you to this episode of The Ordinary Buddhist. The title of today's talk is Attaining Nirvana. But before we get into that, I'll remind you to subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you'll be notified when I post talks in the future. Also, if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, that'd be great too. So, after enlightenment, one of the things that Buddhists most often talk about is nirvana. But this begs the question, what is nirvana? And no, we're not talking about the Seattle grunge band, we're talking about a state of realization that helps us on our path to enlightenment. In the Nirvana Sutra, Buddha describes nirvana as the extinguishment of our defilements, that is, greed, anger, and ignorance. He compares it to having a fire being extinguished so that there is nothing left. So the easiest way to think of nirvana is to think of the poisons of greed, anger, and ignorance as candle flames. And our practice then is learning to extinguish them. Once they're extinguished completely, that is nirvana, or a state of infinite peace. But how do we attain nirvana? Well, when I was in Boy Scouts, if we had a campfire that we wanted to put out, we'd simply stop putting fuel on the fire. And as we stopped putting wood on the fire, what would happen over time is that all the fuel would be burned up, the fire would get lower and lower until it was just coals, and finally it would burn out altogether. When we speak about our defilements, when we speak about our greed, anger, and ignorance that burn within us, it's the same thing. If we want to attain nirvana, we simply need to stop putting fuel on the fire. And Buddhism gives us many practices to do this. However, one of the most effective is mindful breathing. We have thoughts come into our head. Maybe we're angry because someone cut us off in traffic. But instead of putting fuel on that fire and thinking about how we don't like that person, how we don't deserve to be cut off, how this happens to us every day, causing it to get bigger and bigger, thus destroying our inner peace, we choose to take away fuel from the fire by instead practicing mindful breathing. We breathe in and out through the nose, we extend the belly button on every inhale, and we focus on the physical sensations of our breathing. And as we do that, we slowly take fuel away from the fire. They shouldn't have cut me off. We focus on our breath. This happens to me every day. We focus on our breath. No one knows how to drive in this city. We focus on our breath. And as we return to our breath over and over again through the practice of mindful breathing, the fire of our anger cools. It burns down, and our level of nirvana, that is, inner peace, increases. Now, this is true of anger, it's also true of greed, it's true of ignorance, it's true of any negative emotion that we have. Through the practice of mindful breathing, we can attain nirvana by not placing fuel on the fires of those negative emotions. But it's important to understand that nirvana isn't binary. It exists on a spectrum. Just like a fire can be hotter or cooler, our greed, anger, and ignorance can also burn more or less brightly depending on our actions. So it's important to behave in a way that doesn't put fuel on the fire, and also to recognize when the fires are burning too hotly, and engaging in practices like mindful breathing to cool them down. As we do this, we move closer to nirvana, and inner peace becomes a bigger and bigger part of our daily lives. Amitabha.